Hello and welcome to Career Clinic. So, what's Career Clinic all about? This is your chance to ask questions. Now, there is a caveat. You do need to be signed up to my newsletter to be able to ask a question. But what I do is basically I get questions all the time. And this is just an opportunity for me to be able to answer questions that people have about their career. Now, it might be about how to step up to the next level, or it might be a question around leadership or negotiation or decision making. This time, the question is around reputation and brand. And this person is trying to build their brand and their leadership skills, and they're wondering about where they start. Now, for me, when I think about brand, I also think intrinsically connected to the word brand, reputation. You can't divorce the two. When you think about the word brand and reputation, the next bit is, what are people saying about you? How do they talk about you? Because that's essentially what it is. Your brand and your reputation is how people talk about you when you're not in the room. And it's really important to think about that. How do you want people to think about you? What do you want to be known for? Now, what you're known for can be skills. They can be technical skills. You might be known as the problem solver. You might be known as someone who's a highly strategic thinker. You might be known as someone who's a really strong communicator. You could also be known as the problem child or someone who's difficult to deal with, and so you don't want that. And so the next part of this is to really then consider, well, if I'm kind of known, understand what I'm known for from a technical skill perspective, what is it that I stand for? What are my values? How do I bring those values to life every day? That's really, really important. It was Oscar Wilde, the very famous author, who said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." And if you think about it, it's so true. And yet in many quarters of society, in community, and in everyday life, we see people who stop being their authentic self. They think to be successful, they need to be someone else. And yet when we stop being who we are, when we stop being our authentic self, that causes psychological distress. And the research backs that up. It's really important to understand who you are and what you stand for, what your values are, what drives the decisions that you make. And that's critical because that plays into how people think about you and how they talk about you. If you're the sort of person who says one thing but does something else, if you're the sort of person who doesn't stand up for what they believe in, isn't willing to be courageously authentic, isn't willing to be values driven and to demonstrate and live those values, it's very hard to have traction. It's very hard to get things done, and it's very hard to have influence. Why? Because people won't trust you. You don't trust people when you don't know what they stand for and you find them hard to connect with. And if your colleagues and your peers and your team see you saying one thing but doing something else, they're going to go, they're just not a person of their word. I find that I'm going to doubt their credibility. I'm going to doubt their integrity. I'm not going to trust what they say. I'm going to second guess their intent. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. All of which makes it far harder to build a coalition of support for ideas. So understanding yourself, really being clear about who you are, what you stand for, the intent of your actions, and also knowing how you're seen, because sometimes there's a gap between how you think you're seen and how you're actually seen. And the only way to really discover that gap is to talk to people. Or, and this is sometimes even more effective, do a 360-degree feedback. Use a process which is credible, which is transparent, but also people can provide their feedback in a way that feels safe. So you can really dig in and understand if there's a gap between how you think you're seen and how you want to be seen. Because if there's a gap between the two, then you need to work out what it is that you want to do about it. And the questions that I'd ask yourself when you're doing all of this is, do I know what I stand for? Do I know what my underlying values are? Do I know what drives my behavior? Are my words and actions aligned? And am I consistent in how I operate? when you've answered those questions, you're able then to sit down and work out, well, if I'm not being who I need to be, what is it that I want to be and what's stopping me? Is it the environment? Is there some other factor or structure or impediment that is stopping you turning up, being who it is that you need to be every day? You know, it's one of those things where people talk about it takes years and years and years to build a good reputation, but you can lose it in an instant. And it is so true. So building a brand, building a strong reputation, it takes deliberate effort and it takes deliberate focus, but it needs to be authentic. It needs to be genuine, and you need to be who you are. And all of that requires work, feedback from people, and you reflecting to then work out what it is that you need to do next. It's an ongoing journey. But the great thing is, the more you understand yourself, the more you get feedback, the better able you are to then shape how you're seen in a way that's positive, healthy, constructive, that helps you, but also helps those around you. So that's it for this week's edition of Career Clinic. If you have questions, join my newsletter, send them through, and go to my website. If you have further information that you're looking for, you'll find courses that you can attend and lots of other details. Anyway, take care, stay well.